Welcome to video 4. In this video, I am going to demonstrate the exercise number 3, and it has to do with finding words as inspiration for your work. So that was the reason I asked you to get a book with words, and in the exercise you are asked to find 10 words and in some way highlight them on the page. And then we will jot them down in our journal. And I did that here. This is the notebook journal. And my words were hidden stories, ordinary sounds, names, hidden and evident, round, dangerous, and natural. Then I ask you to write for a few minutes. Free write, that is, where you just let the words flow out onto the paper without too much thinking, because this often reveals some very intuitive secrets. So I wrote, the issue of contradiction, of paradox, presents itself continuously. And by that I'm referring to the words I chose, hidden and evident. What is hidden? What is seen all at the same time? How two truths might coexist, how they tango, balance, neutralize, how I'm drawn to the question, flip it around inside my head, attempt to untangle its intricate threads, solve the puzzle. And this is a recurring theme in my work in general, is having to resolve how two things can exist at the same time. And it's similar to the saying that the only constant is change. And I don't remember who wrote that, but it's a very wise statement. So I want you to go back to your book now that you've kind of decided what really to focus in on. And for me, it's hidden. And I actually had, without even knowing it, highlighted hidden twice. So I think in the case of this page, I will probably work with some layering, some transparency. For that, I like to use tea bags. But in the meantime, I am going to paint around the words so that only the words appear, and I will be using gesso for that. So I'm dribbling a little gesso onto the page, and my brush seems to be very wet, so I have to be careful, but I am going to go around the words that I've highlighted, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but it really brings them to life when there is nothing else to compete with them, no other words. So it's kind of an interesting focus in on what you're gravitating to, what your mind is just leading you to. And in these exercises, we are really trying to channel intuition. We are doing a visual journal. We're also doing a recording journal, a notebook. But this workshop is more about going deeper and discovering the common threads that run through your work, and that will lead you to doing more interesting, more original work, more personal work, if you name some of the things that are going on in your mind. So as I said in the introduction, I combine the intuitive and the conscious. So we let the intuitive unveil something, and then we analyze it with our conscious mind. Oops, evident is now disappearing. Okay. I've used my watercolor brushes, that set of markers, and they are not water resistant for a reason, because they're watercolor, and they are bleeding a little into the damp gesso, but that's okay too. It might cause a nice effect and then give me an idea for doing something else. I really let the materials speak for themselves and follow the clues they leave as I work with them. Okay. So I have here the finished page, one half of the two that I had been working on in the previous section of the video. And what I have done to get here is cut out pieces of paper from magazines and other scraps that spoke to the words I had chosen, or what I thought I was going to use. But as I continued to work, I realized that the idea of pattern was really prevalent. My inclination to over and over go for the same kinds of things, and I think that's very typical in one's work. So I decided to cut out pieces of patterned paper, some artwork, zigzags, polka dots, and piece them together like a puzzle, because the idea of puzzle was also a theme in my mind, that I am always trying to solve something. So took me about a half hour to get this all down, a little arranging and rearranging, and I suggest you do some arranging before you start gluing. And what surprised me at the end was this brush, which I thought I would just discard from the artist painting this piece down here, really suddenly struck me that it was kind of like the pen is mightier than the sword idea, that my brush is really a dangerous, rebellious kind of tool that I use in my artwork, among my needles, threads, and other things, but in the metaphoric sense. So don't overlook some of the things that may surprise you as you continue working with this type of sort of spontaneous collage, and just continue to jot things down in your reporting notebook. I want to demonstrate what I am explaining in the PDF in exercise 4, which is using a word as a starting point for doodling. And it may be easier if I show you than reading the directions by yourself. So I have decided to use the word patterns, since that was what evolved out of my collage in the last section. And it is another way to tap into your intuition by doing random doodling, this time inspired by a word, and letting your pen move freely and flow across the page until the page is filled up. So I have a gessoed page here, and I'll be honest, I had started it with the word in another position, and then came up with the idea that I wanted the word to start to be part of the design rather than just a straightforward printing of the word. So I skewed the letters a little bit, and what I will do next is relate to the shapes of the letters and start to make new designs that are sort of connecting points. In this case, seems very graphic, not as organic as some of the work I do, and just filling in the entire space with the black pen as the spirit moves you. Basically, exercise 4 is that one word exercise with about 20 other options for doing random, intuitive drawing and word work. So that's pretty much explained in the PDF. And exercise 5 and 6 basically encourage you to free write often, to use poetry and quotes as inspiration, and to take walks in nature, collect things, and recognize what is bringing you joy in your life.